Hey, what's up, guys? I'm with Henry today. We're going to be talking about the news, the most recent breaking news in sort of a comedic format. Never been done before, right?
Yes, there's the first podcast like this,
First leftist
especially the first
podcast.
leftist one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, leftists have never made fun of the current breaking news. All right. You want to start off with Yemen?
Yeah, so definitely a lot. I mean, there was so much stuff that happened this week. Kind of wild, but yeah, I mean, the most striking thing I think was the bombing of a shelter or like a center for African refugees in Yemen. For those of you who don't know, especially in the eastern part of Africa, but all over. There are people who go and work, in construction or whatever in the Gulf states. Um, and so a lot of these people go through Yemen and then go to the UAE or something. And the United States bombed one of these centers in Yemen. I believe it was killing 63 people, if I'm not mistaken. Clear war crime, really horrific. Another thing that happened is apparently they're getting coordinates off of Twitter, off of Ocean Twitter,
Yeah,
which,
yeah, I saw that. It was NAFO Twitter, right?
yeah, I don't like just people who want nothing more than to just like do the whims of NATO essentially, and just are killing civilians by posting links that Palantir is then scraping and then giving to the Pete Hegseth run military, and they're killing civilians. So pretty horrific.
Yeah, we're in the worst timeline where, first of all, people are so brainwashed that they're doing the U.S. military's job for them. Like they're spending all day. Like what kind of fucking loser spends all day looking at Google Maps for possible military targets that America could target? Like that's I don't know. Like anybody who does that deserves the gulag and the like immediate like penis removal and like just I don't know the most horrible things.
It's crazy because there was a documentary. I can't remember if it was Vice or something, that went through like you know like this place. I think it was in Arizona, of just like drone pilots that were just like bombing Syria, and it was just it looked like a group of like Twitch streamers that just like sat there and just like they're like, yeah, and like bombing it's really unbelievable. Like it's really, I mean,
Oh
it's
yeah.
it's really absurd. Yeah.
No, it really is. I mean, how removed from the horrors that you commit warfare is now. I mean, like say what you will about the previous generations and like this might be a Gen Z thing, but at least the previous war crimers actually did it with their hands, like
At
they
least
actually
they had to
saw.
like yeah, they had to like get PTSD and stuff at
Yeah, they
least.
had to get PTSD. They had to see their victims,
Yeah.
They had to see the life drain from their victims' eyes. Nowadays, I mean, you
It's just a
know,
video game.
it
Yeah.
is. It is. You just sit on your computer. Also, what do you think creates these like chuds who are just so ideologically beholden to the US empire and hegemony that like they'll do the empire's job for them. Like they'll spend all day on Google Maps looking for targets or they'll fucking I don't know, these weirdos who will dress up like police officers and sort of like act as a sort of super paramilitary force for the ruling classes without actually having to ask them, like
Yeah.
what do you think creates that? Like a petty bourgeois mentality or I don't know.
I mean, also, I don't even know that it's that complex, because most people are pretty conformist. Most people like are interested in pursuing the values of the society around them. It's relatively uncommon for people to question things or go against the grain, or be like critical, because it's harder. It's like certainly more demoralizing. I think a lot of people who are just like obsessed with like maps, or they're obsessed with like flying drones or whatever, it's just they just don't question these things. It's just like, well, those are the bad guys, and they're, of course, we're good. Like they just don't. I just don't think they think about it that much.
I fucking
Like,
blame the
look, it's
Marvel
it's kind of a
movies.
duality of evil kind of thing. Like,
I blame Marvel movies. Like the average
we're
American
call agree. or Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, yeah. I mean, the average American brain is currently operating off of like Marvel logic. I feel like like we're the Avengers and like everybody else is like Thanos or some shit. Like like it's
Yeah, even I remember back when the Ukraine war started, there were like Reddit type people posting on Twitter, Putin is like Ukraine is the rebel force, Putin is Darth Vader. And it's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, you can't
yeah.
think of anything outside of that.
No, no, or Harry Potter. I mean, we're just operating off of this mentality where like everything is a story. I mean, I think the crux of Western civilization's relation to other countries really is like fictional stories. Like that's how they visualize themselves. Like especially 1984 and like Animal Farm, like these very fictional stories written by Orwell are basically the foundation of Western ideology, especially in relation to our enemies, I feel like.
Oh yeah. Yeah, or even I was listening to I decided to subject myself to the Lex Friedman uh podcast talking about with this like Western historian of China a while ago, and they were debating whether China is a Brave New World dystopia or a 1984 dystopia. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about? This is like talking about, like Tiananmen Square and all, and it's like, well, like in Kent State or in, like a million other times, the US did something like that. All countries for them basically done something horrible like that. Like, but that's enough for them to be like, this is clearly a dystopian, evil, sick society. And which of these two like dystopian novels, that you read in like middle school is it?
Yeah. Yeah, I also think like Atlas Shrugged, obviously. We were forced to read Atlas Shrugged in my high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh God, that's pretty bad.
But I was sick. I was sick actually that whole lesson. I was sick that whole month. So I skipped Atlas Shrugged, thankfully. Um but really, I think it's like we don't realize when we're consuming this media that it's it has a hegemony to it. It's consumed within Western hegemony. It's
Mm.
consumed within Western ideology, and we're sort of being fed a pill that slowly gets us to agree with the empire. And even like media that I like, does that. Like anybody, like if you're in the West and you enjoy anything from Hollywood, which I think is impossible to say that you don't, it slowly gets you into sort of a mentality like this where like, oh, America's the good guy and these are the bad guys. We're the fucking 300 Spartans and they're the fucking Persians, or whatever. Like it's all this bullshit.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely one thing I guess about Western society that a lot of people have identified is like a very black and white kind of thinking, like this view that, well, even if there's any nuances, like they all kind of become irrelevant, like George Bush, like you're with us or you're against us, or there's this like, even like I've seen some people point out that in all like American sport, there's always a winner and a loser. There's nothing like cricket where like it can be a tie, even after like a bunch of days or something. So there's this definitely a mentality of just like, choose a side, like kind of uh I don't know, like just an aversion to nuance. Might be a bit much to call it anti-intellectual, but yeah, it's definitely bizarre. But then I think, and a lot of it too is just like in any power structure, like could be anything. Like people with certain talents are going to be more likely to gravitate towards um, proximity to power, because there's just more to it. Like there's more in it for you materially.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, like, in a socialist world or a communist world, like, these guys would be using Google Maps for good. Like, they would be using Google Maps to find, like, I don't know, like, arable land or, I don't know, like, environmental restoration. But, because of the society that we've set up, all these towns get wasted on what? Like, killing other people, and there's also, like, not only is it gamification of war, like, where, like, now drone strike operators are sitting in rooms and they don't even see their victims, and,
Mhm.
there's also, like, such a otherization within the West where, like, obviously the media feeds this, where, like, Arabs, Africans, Asians, they're not really seen as human to us. Like they're not really seen as human victims. I mean, like going back to the Ukraine war, like the first reporting we got from it was this is the first time we've seen like two civilized societies fight, or like this is the first time we've seen a civilized society invaded, like insane shit like
Crazy.
that. That's when Ukrainians technically became white, in my opinion. Because like before Iron Maiden, Ukrainians were sort of like a little. Their government was a little
Mhm.
bit pro-Russian. They weren't white then. I feel like they only became white when they were civilized, when they were on our side.
Yeah, well, I feel like the racist view towards the Slavs has always been like that they're like like how in a bunch of Bollywood movies there's like the story of the two brothers and one of them goes one way and the other one goes the other way, or like that like guy, what's his name, he's a mayor now, like Wes Moore, like he wrote that book The Other Wes Moore. Like I feel like there's that kind of view that like the Slavs were just the brother that never really had the enlightenment. They were like too close to the Asian world and like despotism, and they just love fighting and violence and drinking, and like it just can't really be helped. But then the Ukrainians are like, well, they're trying to like pull themselves out of it, like
Yeah,
and there's something honorable to that, even though they're still ultimately like, kind of backwards or something.
yeah, yeah, and all of it is true. Actually, I'm very racist against Slavs, especially
Mhm.
Serbians.
Yeah, after the Yugoslavia interview.
I'm going on Ugopnik's stream tomorrow, so
Oh,
yeah.
cool. You should tell him that. Your
I should
friend.
tell. Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Of course, Serbs are
I mean,
inferior.
yeah, yeah, it's well, I mean, but yeah, the other thing I was gonna say though is the last thing about Yemen is the an F-18 fell off of an aircraft carrier. So apparently the Houthis are getting kind of close um to putting some points on the board. And they've shot down, I think, at least 22 Reaper drones, which are like $30 million each. And the F-18s are, I think they're like a couple hundred million. I'm not sure, but either way, it's been like, I mean, talk about forever wars. Like it's been a massive drain of resources and just a remarkable display of incompetence.
Absolutely. I mean, this situation with the F-18 falling off is so fucking funny. Basically, the Houthis, Ansar Allah, were shooting at the Harry S. Truman, which is a ship, and it moved off course to like avoid the missile. And when it was moving off course so sharply, the F-18 just fell into the ocean. Um, and that's like Looney Tunes ass, like fucking shit. And that's like $67 million. Like that's like
Yeah.
$67 million lost to like, and the Houthis are,
Bikini about him now.
yeah, and SpongeBob SpongeBob got the F-18, bro. Fucking hell.
Yeah.
But no, it's crazy. The Ansar Allah is giving the American military like insane losses from like a monetary value, because they are not
Mhm.
working with as expensive tech at all. Like they're getting their shit pretty cheap from Iran. I mean, obviously their
Mhm.
military is sophisticated, but it's nowhere near like the amount of especially the drones they're shooting down. Like each drone they shoot down from America is like $30 million. So I don't know. There's just something about Trump era fascism, and also just like American fascism at this stage, which is like so wasteful, right? Wasteful of resources. And it's such
Yeah,
like a
it's so
weird
idiotic.
it's such a weird contradiction where like they're like telling us like with Doge that they're saving us money and things like that. And then they're wasting like $67 million aircrafts and $30 million drones to like an army that's facing them with like half of those resources, like even not even a tenth of those resources. They're like shipping off migrants to like $800,000 per migrant to El Salvador. Like it's an insane. I don't know. It's just wasteful on every single level.
Yeah, and it's totally like I don't know. I watched it the other day, like rewatched this movie, Idiocracy. Have you seen that movie?
I've heard of it. I haven't watched it.
Yeah, it's a guy, like it's kind of a stupid, like, 2000s comedy, but he, like, goes into cryo sleep and then wakes up in, like, 500 years, and everyone in the world has just become extremely stupid, and he's, like, the smartest person in the world, and it feels like that kind of world, like, in a way. I mean, especially, like, yeah, just the degree, and again, like, we talked about this, like, before you started recording too, but, Mike Waltz getting dismissed, because apparently he was colluding with Israel to attack Iran, and Trump, like, wasn't clued into this, and so they, then fired him. Like, what? Like, it's just unbelievable incompetence, and Pete Hegseth is like he's like an leaving aside the fact that he's, like, this horrible, violent person, like, he's a drunk. Like, he's drunk all the time. Like, it's unbelievable, and they're talking about, like, launching a ground invasion of Yemen. I mean, it would be it's already a disaster, but the UAE and the Saudis tried, and they miserably failed.
For
Um,
decades. For
yeah,
decades.
to fight the Al Ansar Allah movement, like, miserably failed for all kinds of reasons, and I mean, it's just it's like it's a level of grandiosity and just, like, delusion that's really nuts. I mean, it's really, unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, yeah, and I guess I was gonna say too, we're gonna get into the impact of the tariffs, and there's not even much to say because it's just like there's just gonna be massive shortages of things, and they're gonna, like, blame it on Biden?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Like, what?
I don't know. The thing is, like, Marx, one of the first contradictions of capitalism Marx identified was the contradiction between the productive forces and the relations of production, right? Like the level of technological advancement. We have this like amazing technology. I mean, we have like robots that can give you like blowjobs now. Like, like we're living in the future. Um,
Um,
but
this is a utopian future.
this, yeah, of course. But there's also an issue with the relations of production, right? Who owns it, how they use it.
Mhm.
And I don't think Marx could have ever predicted that the people who are running the productive forces, the relations of production, he could have never predicted they would be this fucking stupid. Like this is like nepo baby upon nepo baby upon nepo baby. This is like,
Mhm.
oh fuck, who's that one like really inbred Habsburg, Charles V of Spain?
Yeah. Yeah.
This is like we're like approaching. We're not yet at Charles V, but we're approaching Charles V levels of incompetence.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think but I mean, he assumed that people behave rationally, um, like, in his analysis, um, and I guess, yeah, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous. I think like, yeah, I mean, it feels like that movie Idiocracy. Like, it feels like just a bunch of old, like, total idiots. Also, what was the deal with, oh, I forget who it was, but the Democratic Party nominated this, like, really old guy. Um, anyway, I can't even remember his name, but yeah, but like the nomination of just ridiculously old, like, dumb people to political positions in, like, the Democratic and Republican parties. Like, yeah, just complete disarray. It's really crazy.
Yeah,
And I guess, a lot of it too is just that, like, people in today's day and age aren't actually dumber, but there's just so much misinformation that people have, like, totally warped views of what the world is like. I mean, totally warped, like Alex Jones level.
yeah, yeah, yeah. There's probably an internet aspect to this. I mean, it's not like American consciousness was better when it was purely like through mainstream media, but I'll also say like I I think this is partly because the petty bourgeois is like scared, and their mentality is sort of being reflected in the ruling classes. In that, like the petty bourgeois, the small business owners who've always sort of been the army of fascism or the main ideological driver of fascism, they've always been like immensely irrational because like small business owners, they're always like the bisexuals of capitalism. They're either gonna get proletarianized and their small business is gonna get thrown over, or they're gonna become big bourgeois. And because of that, that leads them to easily sort of believing in like conspiracy theories and saying the most
Right.
outlandish shit. And, because of their class characters, like sort of the bisexuals between worker and big bourgeois. Because like a lot of my family, like half of my family's based, half of my family's mouse, the other half are small business owners. It's a fucking mess, like my
Mm.
I don't know how we're able to keep it under one roof. But like whenever I'm
Mhm.
at dinner and I'm talking to these like small business owner guys, they'll say like the most insane fucking shit. Like we should round up all the homeless people and, force them to work in camps. But also there's like a part of me that's like, that's gonna be the Republican or that's gonna be Trump's policy next year. Like they're
Yeah.
predicting a lot of what Trump has done, like the tariffs, a lot the deportation of migrants, like the small business owners within my family, like the 3 or 4 guys that there are, they're the ones who were saying it first, like 4 or 5 years ago. It's so like I can sort of see like their mentality sort of implanting itself on the ruling classes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely well, it's such a precarious position to be in because you are constantly anxious about sinking. You're constantly anxious about your class mobility. And as things become more and more unequal, you start sinking down into the working class. So, it makes sense that they would have the most reactionary and most I guess desperate views. Uh,
Yeah, because they have all the mentality of the rich, like Bezos, but they have all of the thread of like a worker, like all of the culpability under capitalism of a worker. I mean, that leads to a very precarious mentality. But also, I think it's just we are living in Nepo baby land. Like none of these fuckers have deserved to wield power. And nobody deserves to wield power. But like capital before, like big industrial capital under like, I don't know, like the Andrew Carnegies and the Rockefellers, these were like smart guys, smart evil guys who were like stealing surplus
much more
value and things like
much
that.
more Machiavellian.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They knew how to run the empire. They knew how to successfully run capitalism in order to exploit people to the maximum benefit. But nowadays, like we're on Nepo baby upon Nepo baby upon Nepo baby. I also think it's the effect of tech finance capital because previous capitalism was very industrial based, right? We now are living in more of like a Silicon Valley finance capital, and the big bourgeois coming out of finance tech capital. I think they're perfectly encapsulated by Elon Musk, right? Like just this bumbling idiot who doesn't know what the fuck he's doing, who has completely been
Yeah.
held up by like fuck, what's it called? Like venture capital. Like other than that, he's
Yeah.
completely inflated.
Yeah, and it's like I got really interested in John D. Rockefeller for a long time, and there's a really good, like a pretty good biography about him called Titan. And you can tell when you really study his like character and like a lot of the anecdotes about him that he really did think that building a monopoly in the oil industry would help society. I mean, you could say it's convenient and you could say, of course, he's a terrible person, but I think at the end of the day, he did have some kind of conviction that this was like a good thing. But when you look at Silicon Valley, it's that kind of conviction times a million. It's like, this belief that we're creating like Star Trek world, like we're gonna create, there's gonna be like, yeah, we're gonna make humans a multi-planetary species. We're gonna have, drones that like come like take your dog for a walk or like anything, and it's because all these people are just really good at making PowerPoints and giving pitches, that they're these visionaries. And then their company is ultimately like like a scam. I mean, they get like tons of funding and then they kind of push everything back years and years and they finally release some like shit product that's not what they said it was going to be. But these people really have like massive egos. I mean, like people like Peter Thiel and Elon Musk, they really think that they're like, the fucking, they think they're like Nikola Tesla. They think they're like an Albert Einstein fucking, that people are going to like look back in history and say like it all changed because of this guy right here. And that lends itself to just like not thinking rationally at all, like, getting addicted to fucking psychedelics and just like being loopy people.
Yeah. Yeah, I also think because, like, the previous bourgeois, like, as much as they were exploitative and, like, I mean, we're Marxists, of course they were exploitative, they had to claw their way to the top. A lot of these guys are
Yeah.
born into power with, like, silver spoons in their mouths. Like, Elon Musk got, like, a $50,000 investment from his dad. Like, a lot of these guys are, sons of, like, very at least, like, very upper labor aristocrats who are, like,
Mhm.
edging, like, a bourgeois position. I
Mhm.
also think these people, they're full of an ultimate ego, like, they want to replace God. Like, they think of themselves as mini gods. And this confidence, it has no backing, right? Like, they believe that they can, sort of twist nature. They can believe, like, they've killed God and replaced him with themselves. They want to create, like, this techno future dystopia where, like, they're here in California, they bought like hundreds of acres of farmland to, like, sort of start their own future land or like utopian city. And they're like advertising it. I've seen the advertisements. It's near Sacramento, I believe. Their advertisements have like Venice like canals in the middle of the fucking Central Valley. Like, are you kidding me? Like, it's a fucking desert. You're gonna get Venice like canals and like these big futuristic apartment buildings there. Like, you're dumbasses. Like, absolutely. But
Yeah.
also, everything about tech finance capital is a bubble. Like, Netflix has not made a profit ever. Netflix has never made a profit, and yet it's been held
Mhm.
up completely by venture capitalism. I mean, a lot of these companies are just fucking bubbles. They're just fictitious capital. They're not real. And so I think that overconfidence has a material basis in the fact that it's all a bubble. They have to like oversell it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like if being confident is all that has mattered to them up until now, then why should they expect to fail? Like what matters is that you can come in and say, with a twinkle in your eye and be like, I have this brilliant idea, and just sell it to people. And like it's a system, especially in tech capital, or excuse me, yeah, tech capital, where whoever is best at selling that kind of shit rises to the top. And so you see all these people who are just kind of weirdos that are really good at making, PowerPoint presentations. But I think that older style of more calculated and more down to earth capital is still alive in the form of finance capital, especially in the eastern part of the country. And you can see those two like factions kind of duking it out as well. I feel like tech capital is really behind the Trump administration, but you can see finance capital was pretty heavily behind Harris, and is kind of like Jamie Dimon will go over to Trump and kind of tell him like, oh, your tariffs are literally killing, gonna destroy everything, and he'll be like, okay, well, I'll stop or whatever, But you kind of have this tension there too.
Yeah, I swear to fucking God, I blame the anti-bullying campaigns. Like, we should have bullied these people more. All these fucking nerds, they weren't bullied enough when they were children. They should have gotten shoved into more lockers. They should have gotten like
Mhm.
hit more. They should have gotten more swirlies. Like, the fact that we're dealing with this now is because we didn't bully enough nerds like Zuckerberg and Elon. Elon almost died from bullying. Like, he got thrown down a flight of stairs as a kid by some Chad South African kids, like they probably saw like this white South African and they were like, "What are you doing here, boy?" And they just all grabbed him and they threw him down a flight of stairs. Like, if we could have done more of that, like twice of that, we wouldn't have to be dealing
Mhm.
with this. We wouldn't have to be dealing with this.
Well, no, I mean, like it's definitely a good joke, but I think at the same time too, a lot of it is like projection from their insecurities from feeling inadequate when they're younger. And now that they're old, they get to be the jock, they get to be the cool guy finally.
I think that's Elon Musk's entire personality. He's trying to get liked. Like, he cannot stand that he is not liked, and he sort of has this
It's
um
crazy.
he sort of has this energy of an uncle who just discovered what a meme was on Facebook, but, like, he's a
Mm.
little bit more hip, like, he went on 4chan a little, but he doesn't completely understand the meme, so, like, nobody's laughing, like, he understands half of it, but he doesn't understand the full meme.
Yeah, or just like an adult that's just like obsessed with connecting with like what are you doing on your phone? Like what memes are you guys looking at? Like,
Yeah.
you know, this is weird.
Yeah. Let's move on to tariffs and their impacts.
Oh yeah, we were already talking about that, but there isn't even that much to talk about because it's just like they're fucking like there's just gonna be a shortage of everything. I mean, if you look at actually it's a really good website in general, Marine Traffic. You look at that website, Marine Traffic, you can see like just how much the tariffs have disrupted global shipping. It's unbelievable. Um, I mean, like in a couple weeks, it's just gonna be like they're probably just gonna blame it on Biden. They're probably just gonna be like, "This is Biden's fault somehow." I can't imagine like what they're even gonna say.
I mean, it has disrupted shipping. I mean, all the ports in America are projecting like a 30%, 40% decrease in shipping next week because like the supply chains take forever to like it takes like 4 or 7 weeks, I believe. And then on top of that, right, not only has the chain been disrupted at the ports, Donald Trump has also signed an executive order demanding that truck drivers speak English. And in case you don't know, the majority of truck drivers are Punjabi, Mexican, like they don't speak English that well. So we can't even whatever little products are getting shipped to the ports. A lot of truck drivers are now going to get caught by ICE or some other shit. And so he's disrupted the supply chain 2 times. He's doing complete genocide on the Treatler class and the fucking
Well, there was already a shortage of truckers too, because the job fucking sucks.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They've been
Like,
desperate for truckers. So he's doing like completely disrupted every single aspect of the infrastructure of the supply chain. He's doing complete genocide on the fucking drop shippers. Like, can somebody think of the drop shippers, please? Like, how are they going to sell Timu products? Like, what the fuck is going on? I think also the funniest part of this tariff debacle is like Trump and the White House sort of like there was this rumor that Amazon is gonna put on like the amount of prices added by tariffs onto their products so people can see. And the Trump White House,
oh
like
yeah,
they were like shit talking Amazon. They said something along the lines of,
this is a politically motivated attack.
yeah, yeah, what did they say? This is a hostile and political act by Amazon. And then Amazon had to come out and say they were never planning it. Even like Levitt from Trump's administration, he said that Amazon had partnered with the Chinese propaganda arm. And so we're seeing like a fight between Trump and his core base of big bourgeois supporters. I don't understand. Like he's fighting the people he's supposed to be working for.
I think the answer is just the stupidest possible explanation. It's just that he has this fantastical, like childlike obsession with tariffs. Like I'm honestly, I've been so tired with listening to people be like, well, they're trying to do this or they're trying to do that. Like Giannis Varoufakis was saying that, this is an attempt to like boost, exports so that changing the dollar and then, like or his obviously his supporters say like this is all the art of the deal or whatever. There's no fucking but like this is total mercurial like today I feel this way, tomorrow I'll feel that way nonsense. And if you go back like 30, 40 years in interviews, he's always been obsessed with this like concept of just coming in and breaking it. Like, I think he just is look, he's a hardcore nationalist and he just has this fantasy of the United States is like like a fortress Europa, style thing. Like I think he's just stupid. Like in a way that's way scarier than like an evil plan. Because what's gonna happen? Like also once like prices go up, they're not coming down, or they're not gonna come back to where they were after the tariffs go away, inevitably. Because corporations are rent seeking and they're going to leave them, they're going to take it as an excuse to hike the prices anyway. So inflation's going to go through the roof.
And
Like,
yeah, I don't understand. I think part of it is again like that like fascists ultimately serve the big bourgeois, but again their base is the petty bourgeois. And a lot of this is like sort of like the irrational part of the petty bourgeois that wants to bring back American manufacturing and like American made goods because that's their specialty, right? Like
yeah,
I think that's part of it. But also I think, yeah, you're absolutely right. Like never attribute to malice what you can to fucking ignorance. And this is just stupidity.
yeah,
Like this is just complete fucking
yeah.
stupidity.
I mean, like it makes me feel like bad to even dignify it with like a Marxist analysis almost, because it's like, yeah, I mean, like you honestly you have the class interests and like the petty bourgeois small business owners that are like ultra nationalist, like anti-immigrant, protectionist, racist, and then you have like the large business owners who like who kind of like especially the tech capital where they think like, well, we're just like letting some pressure, this is like a pressure valve, it's going to be like a fun like fake revolution for everyone, and then we'll go back to the way things were. um and like then it's just this hodgepodge of like ideas that are shit out of their brains, like and then make their way into Trump's brain, which is really like like not the most effective instrument in the world, especially not now. I mean, he's the oldest president ever at this stage of his presidency, or at this stage of the presidency. So yeah, I mean, it's I think nonsense. And then he's surrounded himself with all of these sycophants who just tell him, yes, sir, you're so amazing. And like if you look at the press conferences, all of them just spend like 2 minutes at the beginning saying like, I just want to say, sir, how amazing your first 100 days has been, like, especially considering the Biden administration, the crooked Biden administration, and you're so incredible. It's like, what the fuck is this? I mean, like you don't like I mean, I don't think Idi Amin's advisors talk to him that way.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he has, like, a very big echo chamber and a cult of personality. I mean, as much as we want history to be driven by, like, large structural forces, and it is, I mean, of course, and so is the Trump phenomenon. I also think we cannot undercount the individual actor upon history that is Trump, and he is just a bumbling moron. And to some extent, I mean, it puts the ball in our court. I don't know, like in almost like a weird accelerationist kind of way. He like destroys the American empire. He allows for conditions to like I don't know. All I can say is the accelerationists have been eating good. Like that's all I can say under the Trump administration. Um, but
I
yeah,
just no, go ahead.
I just think his ideology is just whoever's in the room with him. Like, absolutely, like,
No,
whoever's
yeah,
in his
yeah.
ear. And he has, like, advisors, and he has, like, advisors of different sort of, and the advisors he appoints are not the brightest people either. He appoints fucking morons. And so he's got
Based on the loyalty, yeah.
yeah, based off of loyalty. So he's got these like morons who are not qualified for the job. And I don't care if they're qualified for the job. Even when they're qualified for the job, they're evil fucking people. But he's got
Yeah.
evil fucking people who are not qualified for the job, who are in fucking Signal group chats, fucking accidentally adding journalists about where they're gonna strike in Yemen, like civilians in Yemen.
No, no,
And
no. I see even crazier. I saw on the Mike Waltz thing, it was leaked in a Signal group chat also. And so like now this is just a normal thing. Every other day there's another Signal group chat. Why are they obsessed with Signal too? It's so weird. Anyway, go ahead.
yeah, yeah. Wait, was it Signal or Telegraph or whatever it's called?
Telegram. I'm thinking with Signal. I think they're like obsessed with Signal.
Bruh, it is only a matter of time till a White House nude leaks from one of these Signal group chats. Like, I swear to God, like, one of these, they're gonna like send one to their secretary or some shit. Like, like we're gonna see Trump's dick like pretty soon. I feel like,
No, this is what like middle-aged liberals in 2003 thought that the Bush administration was. You know, this is like, yeah, it's the clowns running the show for sure.
no,
I
absolutely,
wanted to,
we're living in a 2000s SNL sketch. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
I wanted to say too, like just to brush over this quickly because we have a lot to get to. The Canadian and today the Australian elections, like the Liberals and the Labour Party just got an absolute landslide victory. So it seems like the rest of the Imperial, or at least Canada and Australia, which are kind of like second fiddle, they're kind of like Hawkeye and the Avengers, if the Imperial Corps is the Avengers, which is, I hate that I said that, but you know what I'm saying. They all are like scared of Trump now, and they're just all in on the liberals, which will be interesting once the liberals fix absolutely nothing, and then the reactionaries look vindicated.
I think Trump is to some extent such an idiot because Canada was going to, because like everybody was absolutely mad at the Liberals and Trudeau. Everybody absolutely hated the Liberals, and Canada was going to go for Pierre's party, the Conservative Party. But
Mhm.
because the Conservatives in Canada are so associated with MAGA, and like they've made some like pro Trump, pro MAGA statements before, when Trump started talking about we're gonna annex fucking
Mhm.
Canada, and we're gonna get the maple syrup and whatever, like make it our 51st state, that ignited like such a liberal backlash that the conservatives lost point after point after point and allowed for this landslide
Crazy.
in in Canadian politics. And now they've elected essentially they've elected this dude named Carney. He's a banker. He's a banker who like helped with Goldman Sachs. He helped Canada quote unquote recover from the 2008 financial crisis, which meant like just like basically bailing out the banks that failed. So, I of course, like Canada's gonna stay on this like neoliberal path that's gonna allow for fascism, of course. But Trump's also alienated his biggest support base that he could have gotten, and drawn Canada towards China.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's like, I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be a reactionary like groundswell once things keep getting worse, in both of those countries. But um yeah, it also is like the dream scenario for liberals because they want to feel like they're like these crusaders in the face of fascism or whatever they think fascism is. And Trump, like especially in Canada, literally was that. And I mean, he was seriously threatening to invade Canada. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
it's kind of the perfect storm.
yeah. Honestly, some days like I understand why Bordiga. And we're not Bordiga fans here, but I understand why he said the worst thing about fascism is anti-fascism. Because like you look at these fucking liberals,
Yeah.
look at these fucking liberals like Kamala Harris and like AOC and like Bernie Sanders and like Mike Carney and like I don't know these like that Australian fucker who looks like fucking Humpty Dumpty. You know who I'm talking about?
Mhm, mhm.
The Humpty Dumpty looking motherfucker. You know his
I
name?
do. Forget his name.
I forget his name. Yeah, but
I
like
was just looking at him today.
yeah, he looks like fuck. Okay, first of all, he looks like White Malima from the EFF, in South
Anthony
Africa.
Albanese.
Yeah, like
Anthony.
Jakob. First of all, race switched Malima, and like created like an anti-Malima to like get back at us for like our anti-white stances and like our pro-white genocide stances that we've all been having. And he's dropped him in Australia. But no, like you look at these guys and you see them like posturing against like fascism, and it's like you're not gonna fucking do anything. You're gonna put up the most weak, dick-limped fucking resistance to him, and your economic policies are gonna be essentially the exact same as Trump's. It's gonna be the exact fucking same. Like it's not even.
Yeah.
So what resistance? What resistance? There's no fucking resistance. It just pisses me off to see them. I don't
Yeah.
know.
The resistance is just like everybody please pretend that their life is fine and there's no like economic pressure on the working class at all and everything's good and just behave like get in line. Um and then the reactionaries offer a way to like just make these people mad and yeah, of course people are going to choose that.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's such a as much as fascism is a fake revolution, meant to like sort of take away the
Mhm.
steam. So is liberalism. So is like neoliberalism. But it's a
Mhm.
fake revolution. Like we're at least okay. I'm not promoting fascism at all, but at least the fascists will like occasionally crack a skull or two. Like it
Yeah.
actually feels like you're releasing some pressure. The liberals,
Uh-huh.
it's completely vibes based. Like the best they can do is interpretive dances. Like
Mhm.
it,
Or
it
the Pelosi kente cloth picture.
I know, like they're standing in front of the Department of Education just doing nothing, or they're just they've got the fucking black power hats on kneeling, and then they don't change anything. They fund cop cities. It's completely vibes based. It's a wine ontery. Like Facebook wine aunt. That's their resistance. It's like posting really snarky, passive aggressive images of Looney Tunes characters saying like, "I can't believe I'm in a country full of idiots," and his fucking Tweety Bird. Like that's their resistance. That's their fucking resistance, and it's that on a political level. You know?
Yeah, I can't believe not everyone is right like me and knows everything. Yeah. Yeah, but yeah, it's
I don't
yeah, but it's funny, like at the end of the day, liberalism is a conservative ideology in the sense that it just wants to preserve like existing hierarchies and like maintain them. Um, like most of the people who are like support liberalism are like professionals, they're like they have like higher paying jobs, they're educated, um, and they, kind of feel like, I kind of deserve to have a, better life. I'm kind of better than other people. I'm smarter, more knowledgeable, whatever. Um, so in a way, it's really a conservative ideology, but masquerading as like a revolutionary one. Whereas reactionaries are, um, yeah, just fake revolution across the board, or just whatever to make these people mad, just antagonize them.
Yeah.
But speaking of fascism, though, there's a lot happened with Israel this week, including the bombing like a flotilla by Malta, which I think one of the most embarrassing things about this is that I realized how many people in the U.S. just don't know where Malta is. But it's by Italy, basically.
I knew it was in the Mediterranean Sea. I knew that much. I knew. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's an attack in international waters, most likely by Israel on a ship that was carrying basic aid to Gaza, and like Gaza's been starving for weeks now. They basically run out of food because Israel re-implemented their blockade. Um, and so it's just a brazen, and it's in international waters off the Sea of Malta, and nothing's gonna happen. I mean, Israel never gets consequences for when they do this kind of shit. I mean, it's insane. Thankfully, I think everybody on board, nobody on board was injured. They just hit the like engine of the ship, so it can't go forward anymore. And so it just
Mhm.
stalled. But that shows like a level of malice, and level of ego that I think Israel has only been allowed to have because of how lax America has been recently. And partly it's because I think like Biden and was so geriatric that he wasn't able to even assess what was going on in Israel. Like he was just sort of uh, he was just sort of like something about corn pop, right? He was like saying something about corn pops, like
Yeah.
in his own little world, and like pro-Israeli advisors would come up to him and they'd be like, "Oh, Israel wants to attack Lebanon and strike a hospital," and he'd be like, "Corn pop," and they would do it. Like, there was no pushback whatsoever, and of course, his whole career he's been like pro-Zionist. And the same thing, like these geriatric Zionists within the American administration have gotten to a point where they can't even put the pushback that Reagan gave Israel during the Lebanese
Yeah.
civil war. Um, where Reagan was able to stop some of Israel's more horrific acts within the Lebanese civil war, though of course they got away with a lot, um, especially in Shatila. But it's just like they're so tame now. They're so geriatric. They're so unable to put any pushback that Israel can strike a ship in international Maltese waters and get away with it. And Israel has the ultimate ego. I mean, Israel could probably fucking strike me and you down in middle America and nothing would happen. Nothing would fucking happen. The news media
Yeah.
wouldn't cover it. The politicians would defend it if they're asked about it. And other than that, life would go on.
I will say though, I mean, all of that is completely true, but I will say I think I don't know, like I usually don't listen to Pod Save America, but I actually listened this week because I heard they were talking about this. And honestly, it's so late and they spend so long just not talking about this at all. But considering that Pod Save America is basically a mouthpiece of the Democratic Party, I was really shocked by how much they're talking about Gaza. Like they're talking about specific atrocities and how Biden didn't do anything and how it came out that Biden, never pushed for a ceasefire, and they were sounding like kind of disillusioned, at least on the issue of Israel, and I took that to be a really great sign. Like people listen to Pod Save America need to hear that, and I think hopefully there will be. I mean, there is some kind of like slowly like a change in like perception that's happening, but Yeah, across the board, like sounds like the American government is just gonna fucking. I mean, although at the end of the day, they didn't give them the war with Iran. It doesn't. It seems like Trump actually, although like Steve Witkoff shows up to those talks with Iran, and like Steve Witkoff is another example of this like idiotic bourgeoisie because he's like he's just like he's some guy Trump played golf with. He doesn't know fucking shit about international relations, and he shows up to meetings with the Russians and with the Iranians completely unprepared. Like he's not. It's an incredibly stressful and difficult job to negotiate between two countries, and he is not in any way equipped to do that. But Trump apparently was like, yeah, send him over there to talk to Iran. And the Israelis got mad and were like, no, you shouldn't be talking to Iran. You should just be bombing them and like killing a bunch of people there and like destroying their nuclear refinement facilities and stuff. And so I guess that Trump at least like wasn't going along with that. But also under the Biden administration, I think the US's grip on Israel slipped because Biden was such a yeah, it was so spineless. Like it wasn't even just that he didn't care, it was that he just didn't think it was worth the trouble. Like he didn't want to make them mad. He just kind of wanted to appease them and thought like, well, if we just give them all this stuff and they rely on us, then they won't go too crazy. But now it sounds like with the Druze communities in southern Syria that are um fighting back again or fighting against the like new government, the interim government. Now it sounds like Israel is like entertaining going further into Syria, using that as a justification, this bombing, and just all kinds of stuff. So, it definitely seems like an unstable state, like even for Israel. It definitely seems like it's getting um, increasingly irrational, internally divided. And then of course, like this week there were these massive wildfires, um,
Yeah.
in which are apparently like some of the largest in the history of the country. And I wanted to say too that it's crazy because the Jewish National Fund planted like huge amounts of trees and they use up all this groundwater to try to like quote make the desert bloom because there's this Israeli like fascist historiography where it all looked like Poland before the Romans kicked them out, before the exile, and then the Ottomans came and the Ottomans deforested everything, and all the deforestation during World War I was just because and that included like Zionist settlers already there during World War I, but they deforested things because the British blocked off fuel, so they had to like cut down trees to like burn them. And so now they think like, oh, it all used to look like where I used to live, like Poland, and so we need to fucking plant a million trees, and then they burn down and use up all the water. And yeah, it's basically just like what the Italians tried to do in Libya. Uh,
Yeah.
it's classic fascist colonizer stuff.
I think it's insane how fascism itself is like a war against the earth. Like even the earth rejects settler colonialism, especially these settler colonials. The very
Mhm.
essence of nature is rejecting them, and especially when they're like cutting down like olive trees that have been there for like I don't know like hundreds of years, and they're planting.
Mhm.
And everything about Israeli historiography, everything about what Israelis tell themselves is made up. Like they'll tell themselves that like Palestine was this empty land, a land without people for a people without land, when in fact it was like full of Palestinians for generations. Like you can trace this back thousands of years, like just generations of people occupying this place. And the Palestinians,
And Jewish people, like also like 10% of them were Jewish people.
oh yeah, yeah. And
Like it's not even like it doesn't make any sense.
and then like what did they do? They planted these trees that are not native to the region in order to sort of like get back in their heads that they're like greening this place, but like the original inhabitants knew how to take care of the environment 100 times better than Israelis did. And so, I don't know, everything about their history, everything about their worldview is made up, it's manufactured. And I think to some extent, they can sort of tell, like, there is a national embarrassment and projection that they have to do in order to sort of compensate for how made up their entire worldview is, how manufactured it is. Because to some extent, they know that they're fucking outsiders and European settlers in a region that rejects them, and yet if they have to accept that, they have to deny their whole existence, like everything they've been taught, everything that they believe in.
Yeah.
And this goes all the way to like when the fire started, and these fires, I mean, they started on Israeli Independence Day. Like they started around Israeli Independence Day and they almost reached Jerusalem, forcing people off of the highways. And so like first of all, if I believed in a god or a deity, like this would be it. Like this would be the bad omen. You know, like this is
Yeah.
the fucking 12 plagues of Egypt or whatever the fuck Moses gave them. Um but also, like in addition to that, their entire worldview is so manufactured, and they were claiming that the fires were Hamas, that the
Yeah, they
fires
claim
were
they arrested 18 people too.
18 random Palestinians, right? Yeah, like 48 Palestinians who have been forced to live in Israel. Um, and then it came out this morning from Haaretz that most likely these fires were started by Israeli settlers in the West Bank who were trying to burn some Palestinian crops. Like everything about their ideology is projection. Everything about their ideology is
Yeah.
made up. Their history is made up. You know, this was empty
Yeah.
land and the Nakba didn't happen. And that Israel has always been defending itself. You know, their worldview is made up. Their culture is made up. You know, it's just fucking the Timu version of Arab cultures. Or, you know, like they'll make like the shittiest falafel on earth and call it Israeli falafel. Um,
Yeah.
you know, like everything about this culture, everything about this worldview is made up and it's projection. And it just goes all the way to them fucking claiming that the fires were Hamas. And then in breaking news this morning, it was fucking Israeli settlers. I mean,
Yeah.
a good God. Oh, there's only been about 13 injuries reported so far. That upset me so much. I wanted like hundreds of dead. You know, like I wanted hundreds boiled alive, you know, like honestly. Like I'm so tired of these people.
Dude, I mean, it's there's certainly like a lot of fucking contradictions, and I mean, and one that I got like way more into too is like how there's a lot of really interesting writing about how by Jewish scholars about how is Zionism has like destroyed Judaism in a certain way, because Judaism was always about this view that you're called to follow the 613 commandments that were given on Mount Sinai, right? So it's not a nation. It's not the nation. It's not a Hebrew nation. It's not a nation of Israel. It's simply a group of people who are commanded by God to uphold extra commandments than everyone else, right? So during the 18th century, or 19th century, excuse me, um, with like anti-Semitic, because to follow these commandments, you kind of have to have your own society and do things your own way. And then because of Enlightenment values, lots of people wanted to basically leave the Jewish community, but anti-Semitism kind of made that impossible because even if you say I'm not religious anymore, you still had, in a certain sense, you were viewed as ethnically Jewish. And so a lot of the early Zionists like Herzl, Jabotinsky, these were all like very secular people who hated Judaism as a religion and hated Jewish people in a way because they wanted to turn them into a national identity and bring back Hebrew. Like bringing back Hebrew, it's like a liturgical language. It doesn't make any sense. Go back to Palestine, like become secular, become modern, like leave behind this religious like way of life. And you see that like Yeshayahu Leibowitz, who is like this, he was born in Latvia, but then he lived in mandatory Palestine, and he would like talk to ben, he called like he said like that Zionism was like he called it Judeo-Nazism. It's a kind of a like really fascinating guy. Actually, he was the president of the Hebrew University of or professor at the Hebrew University of Jerusalem. And he's like very against Zionism, but he lived there, so make it that way you will. But he talked to Ben Gurion extensively, and Ben Gurion was like, we're gonna turn all these Jews into Israelis. You know, we're going to like make them secular and give them this national identity. And to do that, you have to make all this shit up. Like you have to make up that number one, there's such a thing as a Israeli nation, which didn't fucking exist at all. You know, this is a very disparate diasporic group of people. And there's all these like nonsensical like myths, you know, that you have to uphold to turn it into a country. And then you get into all these like nutty ideas, like, yeah, it used to be covered in trees. You know, let's plant a bunch of trees. I wonder what'll happen. You know, you just lose touch with reality.
Yeah. Yeah, and then you set those trees on fire because you're sort of the center of the
Because they're
universe. Yeah, I mean,
burning down crops. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, these people, they've never had to face consequences in their lives. And you're absolutely right. I mean, if you read, I mean, I suggest anybody goes back to my earlier episodes, Zionism and Fascism, a history. But if you read the earliest writings of Herzl, a lot of Zionists, they absolutely hated the Jewish masses. And that's because they were from the middle class. I mean, again, the petty bourgeois, they absolutely ruin everything. But the Jewish workers, they mostly wanted to stay in Europe, and the Jewish rich, the big bourgeois, they also wanted to stay in Europe. Both had good incentives to stay there. One was to fight for workers' rights. The other one was to because they made their wealth in Europe, so of course they're going to stay in Europe. And so they were always sort of based in this deep despotism, this deep hatred of the Jewish masses. I mean, they really saw them as stupid, bumbling
Like
idiots.
backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like backwards morons. And a lot of their writings are like, yeah, I understand why the Germans are doing what they're doing to Jews. Like I understand why
Yeah.
anti-Semitism is happening because we're like this. Like it's an embodiment, it's sort of like an embodiment of self-hatred. Like the self-hatred that they were receiving. And
Yeah.
it
Well,
was a
like,
legitimization of European anti-Semitism.
yeah, and like Herzl even said like when he tried to justify this view of Jewish people, or like he was asked to like define like what a Jewish person is, and he said like the anti-Semites don't distinguish. You know, basically like if an anti-Semite views you as a Jewish person, you're a Jewish person. It's like, okay, so I guess like, you know, you hear some Israelis say this too, um, today, like, well, Hitler didn't distinguish between the secular and the Orthodox and the, you know, the Haredim, and so, you know, this is nonsense or whatever. And it's like, I guess anti-Semites should decide what it means to be Jewish. Like, what? What are we talking about? That doesn't make any sense to me. That sounds horrific.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It's the weirdest, most like they claim they're and not they claim they stand against anti-Semitism, but it's the biggest anti-Semitic project on earth. I mean, they absolutely despise the Jewish people, especially like Ben Gurion, especially like Jabotinsky, especially like they had such a pessimistic view towards Jewish people, as like sort of these like
Mm.
stupid cattle. Like it's amazing how anybody could claim, and you'll get like the Hasbra trolls on Twitter, like claiming like Zionism is for Jewish people and yada yada, and they like use like selective quotes from Jabotinsky and Herzl and whoever Gurion. But if you really truly do dive into these people's works, these people despise the Jewish people, and yet somehow they were the saviors. Like I don't understand. I don't know.
Yeah, they wanted to transform it into a national identity to make it like quote unquote modern. It's crazy. And like destroy Judaism. Like that's why and I don't really like condone like you know, it's a fundamentalist religious group, but the Satmars, that's like the reason why they're against Zionism, like the Satmar Orthodox dynasty, because of like all this. Essentially, they view it as like I think correctly as like an attempt to secularize Judaism. But obviously, this isn't like of central importance. But it definitely highlights like the cognitive dissonance involved in Israel, you know.
Absolutely. I mean, everything about the Israeli worldview is made up. I mean, there's not a single third party source at this point that's not connected to some kind of Zionist group or Israeli group, like a third party source
Mhm.
that has no like game in it, or incentive to lie. There's no third party source that backs up what the Israeli state or Israeli media says. Like nobody, not at all. Like the entire Zionist viewpoint at this point is just the Israeli government. That's their only source. And it's like, It's like nobody else is incentivized to believe the Israeli government. I have no reason to believe what the Israeli government is saying is true. No, nor do you. The only people who are incentivized to believe it are people who need it to be true in order for them to continue to occupy this land. I mean, yeah. Anyways, the fires are Hamas. Like what else?
Yeah. Yeah, and but another thing I heard is, and I don't know, it's hard for me to verify this, but I heard that um like 50 to 60% of draftees in Israel aren't showing up too. So there's a general like, possibly like a very general fatigue of the war, and slowly kind of a lot of people are who are still ultimately like, pretty committed to the fascist project, but they're slowly like kind of turning against the government, which is becoming extreme, like more and more Kahanist and more rabid, because they're just like trying to take this chance to like expand as much as possible.
I mean, Gaza is a death trap for Israeli soldiers. It's this, it's the worst place you could be deployed to. It's their Vietnam. I mean, they've accidentally created the greatest space for a guerrilla army. I mean, as much as it's horrific what they've done. All this rubble, all this like rubble, and the extensive tunnel networks of Hamas allow them absolutely to get the surprise on Israeli soldiers. And we've all known
Mhm.
that Israel has been lying about their death counts and underreporting. And of course, it's been nowhere near how much Israel has been able to get on Hamas. But Gaza really is the Israeli soldiers' worst nightmare to be deployed there. I mean, I think I would shit my pants too if I was forced to. And also, these people are bumbling idiots. Like, they've been handed weapons, but they have no combat training. And so you're going to
Mhm.
be handed a weapon at 18, fresh out of high school, no training whatsoever. And you're going to be sent to fight like a hardened Al Qassam brigade sniper who hasn't eaten for 3 days and has like 49 confirmed kills. Like, you're fucked. You're fucked. Yeah, I think it's less about them caring about Palestinians or growing a heart, and even the hostages. Like, to some extent, I don't think Israeli society in general cares about the hostages as much as it claims it does. It's just
Mhm.
more about self-preservation at this point.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, and in Lebanon it was even more horrific, like or I mean like good, I guess, but like from the perspective of a draftee in the like IOF going to Lebanon, like there were accounts of them trying to take villages and just like just the whole unit got like half the unit got killed, and then they had to withdraw. Like that's why they aborted the whole invasion of Lebanon, because they just kept losing so many soldiers, and they decided like, well, we'll just bomb a bunch of women and children instead, just like to get revenge. Um, but yeah, I mean, it's like it's very difficult to justify forever wars to people.
Yeah, yeah. You want to move on?
Yeah, yeah. I guess the other thing to talk about too is the I feel like Slotkin and the Ezra Klein like abundance nonsense, and just like where liberals have gone, like the lessons that they didn't learn from the election, I guess. Um,
Yeah,
like Slotkin wants she was saying like we need to like reclaim the flag, and we need to like just I don't know, become like reactionaries basically. And then Ezra Klein is like basically they wrote that whole book too with the other guy whose name I can't remember, where it's basically like what if we were like China but just using neoliberal economics and public-private partnerships.
yeah, yeah. It's odd. I don't know. The Democrats ran such a failing campaign. To some extent, think they wanted to lose with Kamala because they got all the people on Hillary Clinton's campaign to be her advisors, and that was a doomed
Yeah.
campaign. Everybody could tell it was a losing campaign, and they always learn the wrong lessons from losses where like they'll move more right than left, and like I don't know. I mean, if the Democrats wanted to win, they would at least promise universal health care and free college, which is actually oddly, before 2024, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris sort of knew that, right? They sort of made vague gestures towards universal health care and free college, and they would walk back on it on the campaign trail eventually. But they knew
Mhm.
that in order to win, they would have to at least pretend that they cared a little about these things. And then during Kamala's campaign, they didn't even pretend they cared about getting universal health care or free college or whatever. or these like reformist like SOCDEM policies, and so they always move to the right. And you could see this almost when Kamala lost. Like the first thing that news commentators were saying in CNN was because, oh, it's because of black men, it's because of Hispanic men and they're sexist, it's because America hates the woke. And so now Democrats, of course, have once again learned the wrong lessons, and they're once again trying to say like, don't say oligarchs. Americans don't know what the word oligarch means, and like,
It's only Russia. Yeah.
we don't have oligarchs in America. They're just billionaires, like good hardworking billionaires who deserve it. And then of course, like they're trying to run on anti DEI. They're trying to sort of capture masculine energy, like Slotkin said, like let's try to be like the Detroit's Lions head coach and capture that kind of Detroit's Lions head coach energy, which is like the stupidest thing I've heard. And so they're trying to position themselves as like what? Like something like a George Bush Republican or like I don't know, like a 2011, 2012 Republican Party. Like uh,
Yeah, and it's weird too how there's this like obsession with young men that they have. It's like, why are young men like moving to the right? And we need to get young men back, and we need like the left wing Joe Rogan. It's like it's just a bizarre like. I mean, like I don't know. Talk about catering like to the perspective of men. Like it seems pretty ridiculous. Um,
yeah.
it's
Yeah.
it's crazy. It's weird. It's like. Uh, Uh, and in a way, I guess it's infantilizing, but also like, I don't know, centering men or whatever. It's like, well, men care about like violence and, chauvinism and Andrew Tate and just like, extremely like negative and like terrible things. And so we should just be that. It's like there's nothing, there's no spine, there's no beliefs, like there's nothing at all.
Yeah. Yeah. Next election cycle, they're gonna run on like a hey guys, we're the party of Bill Clinton. You know, he got laid so much. You know, like think
Yeah.
about that. You know,
Yeah, his
um,
numerous sex crimes that he got away with.
you guys think that's cool? I don't know. They're always chasing this moderate, like this mythical moderate Republican voter that's somehow gonna become a Democratic voter. And of course, like, you know, there's like a material basis for why the Democrats are always going right. And it's capitalism and the
Mhm.
overturn window and whatever. Like capitalism is degrading. But also, I think to some extent they get stuck in these like CNN echo chambers. And the liberal worldview is so fickle, right? Like it's based in such a pessimism about the human race. Like you know, and I think it goes back to the Enlightenment, right? Like this Enlightenment superiority they have other over people, where it's like, yeah, these black men are stupid, these white men are stupid, these masses are stupid, and I'm the enlightened intellectual who knows everything. And so,
Mhm.
you know, they get stuck in these like CNN echo chambers where like, you know, liberals are these amazing things and all these other people are fucking morons. You know, the Mexican voters and the yeah, Arab voters are stupid and and you know, they despise the masses. And yet they're also all like, well, we're going to have to appeal to these fucking morons, right? Like we're going to have to appeal to these fucking morons somehow. So at the next Democratic convention, you know, why don't you like when one of the female presenters goes up, why don't you like slap her ass to like get the men vote or like I don't know, like something stupid like that.
Yeah.
Um,
You gonna be
it's
terrible like them.
it's yeah, it's this like both hatred of the masses and then also recognition that they're gonna have to. Okay, they invent this mythical masses, right? Like they invent this fake masses that is just this stupid bumbling idiot, and then they sort of like swallow their pride and say, okay, I have to appeal to this idiot that I've invented in my head.
Yeah.
That's what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the abundance thing is just like I don't even the abundance thing, it just makes no it's so pretentious and stupid and it's so like New York Times. Um I don't know, it's so dumb. It's just so simple. Like if you want a ton of infrastructure and shit like China, then do central planning. Like, but they can't do that. So they have to say like, well, we need like passionate innovators and like we need to care about growth and what it's just nonsense. Like, yeah, I'm sure that's gonna give us a high-speed rail network and like great infrastructure and give everyone jobs.
Yeah, yeah. I think to some extent, like fascist policy is like laid in the Democrats before it even gets to the Republicans. Like as much as like sometimes we think of like Republicans as the originators of the right wing overturn shift in
Mhm.
America, I think the Democrats sometimes are ahead of the Republicans in terms of that like how far right they're going to go. I mean, Kamala during the campaign, she was trying to run on like I'm tougher on migration than Trump. Like that was a sort of softcore launch of what Trump is doing now. Like I don't know. And of course, like their policies, like neoliberal policies, are always like fascist policies, like privatization and things like that. So I don't know. It's an odd and the Democratic voter base is so demoralized, right? So there's such a lapdog that's sort of been stricken down in terms of like what can be possibly achieved from our politicians that they'll lap up anything that the Democrats throw at them, right? Like adopt the Democrats tomorrow could adopt every single policy of Trump's 2024 platform and they would take it. They would lap it up. They're so tired of Trump. And this tiredness they have of Trump isn't really based in a material basis. Like, sure, they'll like pretend they care about migrants being deported, but of course they don't care when it's under Biden. Of course they'll pretend to care about Gaza now suddenly, but they didn't give a fuck under Biden. This way that they lap it up, it's just based, and this demoralization that they have is just completely based in the fact that their comfortability has been violated. Right now, they have to pay attention to the news because Trump's in the news.
Yeah. Yeah, and it just becomes like a sport to them. Like it's just a game. Like it's there's nothing. Again, there's like no principles or like spine behind it at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the 2024 Democrats are, I mean, the 2028 presidential election for the Democrats, I believe, is going to incorporate so much of Trump's 2024 platform. And everybody's just going to lap it up because it's not Trump. I mean, I think Trump is the greatest gift to the Democrats ever because it allows them to go as right wing as they want for their donor classes, for their donors, without actually having to address any issues. And as long as they position themselves as anti Trump, they can do whatever they want. They really can. They really can. They can even be worse than Trump to some extent, and as long as they give the Democratic voter base a sense of comfortability, that's all they need. You know, that's all they want.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, so there's like still civil war in Sudan that's been continuing. There's also a like teetering domestic situation in South Sudan that threatens to turn into civil war. And then a war in Myanmar as well. I think just recently, I think it was like today or yesterday, there were failed like peace talks, like Chinese mediated peace talks in Myanmar between the TNLA and the military government, and so they started bombing civilians again. Lots of horrific war crimes by the military in Myanmar continuing. In South Sudan, just today as well, there was a Doctors Without Borders hospital that was bombed by the military, killing 7 people. That was, I think, just like a few hours ago. And then in Sudan, like obviously the civil war has been going on for a very long time um, between the RSF, supported by the UAE, and the UAE especially, as well as a number of other nations and the military of Sudan. And so pretty terrible. Mostly just want to highlight them because they're not really discussed sufficiently, and people should be aware of that.
Yeah.
South Sudan had a very horrific civil war that lasted for a number of years after its independence, and it seems like the same like internal tensions within the country might lapse into a civil war again. So definitely important to keep an eye there. And then we mentioned earlier too that seems like members of the Druze community in Syria and the south are clashing with the now military of Syria, like formerly Tahrir al-Sham. Um, so that's an area of instability as well. And yeah, and then I think the main like the world news story that uh, we still have to cover is India, Pakistan, and Kashmir. And I actually just heard I think today that there was talk of Bangladesh heightening tensions with India too, um, on behalf of Pakistan. So pretty concerning situation, but it's hard to tell. It doesn't seem like it'll turn into a full-fledged war, but we can't tell.
It seems like the war is mostly, for now, like the tensions are very petty. Like India's Modi blocked a major river that feeds Pakistan for a little while, and then he unleashed the river, and it caused like absolutely destructive flooding. But in addition to that, within I believe like Bangladesh, China has made a deal with Bangladesh for control of a major river that feeds India. Actually, so I think we're seeing like the beginnings of, and it's so fucking dystopian, but we're seeing the beginnings of what are going to become the water wars over like climate change, especially like control of
Yes.
because like these are like, especially this area of the world has like such a high population that needs agriculture, like a lot of fucking agriculture to feed these like absolutely explosive populations in China, India, Bangladesh. That we're starting to see conflicts over vital resources like water for ag, and a lot of these water resources, they originate in the other person's territory. Like that's crazy. I mean, Pakistan's water originates in India, like the sources, and like same thing with Bangladesh and India. I mean, that's it's gonna get messy. Of course, like Kashmir, India occupy this region, they turn it into a tourist spot, and then they've essentially put these people under martial law. There's been horrific cases of rape for decades now of Indian soldiers abusing their power in Kashmir. And then they thought that, the Kashmiris would sit by silently and let people use their homes as like their land as like a tourist spot. Like, I don't know. It's I can't justify obviously the attacks on tourists, but it really speaks to how populations refuse to be subdued, like all over the world.
Yeah, I mean, I read something really interesting in this book, India Since Independence. It has like three different authors that I really recommend. It's a good book, but there's one observation they make when talking about Kashmir, which is that Kashmir, from 1947, like from the beginning of um, the war, like the first Indo-Pak War, Kashmir always represented part of like India's national identity because big part of India's national identity was this idea of secularism, right? So, if the given that like the leader of Kashmir and a lot of people say under duress, like signed, a treaty to join India. Well, if we just say, well, because this is a majority Muslim territory, that they should be part of Pakistan, we're conceding to this narrative of secularism and communalism. And so, we have to have this kind of, commitment to that principle. And if we don't have Kashmir, then we don't really have a nation. So, like from the beginning, it was like, a big part of like the history of the country. But then over time, is like the Hindu nationalists and the BJP, like the Hindutva movement, like gained momentum. It developed a different meaning where Kashmir really signifies this area that used to be part of a Hindu nation, but was then invaded by Muslims, right? And so you have all these like you look at like a lot of movies, like Bollywood movies. There's always a scene where they're like in Kashmir and they're kind of it was all Hindu, and they look at all these old like Hindu temples in Kashmir and all that kind of thing to basically assert like this is ours, like this belongs to like the Hindu Rashtra, right? So yeah, like you're saying, it's a very political act, and like you could say, like yes, it's wrong to target unarmed tourists, but it's a very politically motivated act because it's this view that, oh, this is our backyard. We can come here on vacation, do whatever we want. And it really sends a message that you can do this. This isn't, you've completely ignored our existence and our identity and so on and so forth. Um, but then it seems like the Indian government and Modi is under an immense amount of domestic pressure to attack Pakistan. Like you even have like protests, like asking to attack Pakistan, but he also understands that Pakistan has 170 nuclear weapons and that's a nightmare scenario. So it's definitely like an interesting situation because he has to look like he does something, for his base, but he also can't really start a war with Pakistan. So it'd be interesting to see what happens. But as for like the war over water, I mean, a lot of people talked about that with the grand the dam in Ethiopia. Remember when there was a lot of talk of that between like Egypt and Ethiopia because they built that huge dam, but then they just built the dam and it flooded the territory, and now the water flow is the same. So hopefully it's kind of like that, but there's definitely a lot of tension there.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and also like the way the Hindu Vadas visualize Indian history, like I was saying, like the Zionist historiography is absolutely made up. Their historiography is absolutely made up too. Like it's like they imagine like Bharat as like, encompassing territories that they never even encompass. Like, they imagine like India stretching all the way to like Germany somehow. Like, it includes like Persia and then like Turkey and then like, as much as like Zionists will like make this like sort of allusion to like allusion to like the Torah as a justification for taking lands all the way up to like from like Egypt to like Iraq. um these Hindu Vatas, they'll like make allusions to like their like Vedic texts that are like old as hell to like justify like them conquering these regions that stretch all the way to like the I believe the furthest that an Indian empire has ever stretched outside of India is the Punjabi empires of Ranjit Singh that made it all the way to Afghanistan. Like that's the most I can remember it
The
going.
Mughals. Yeah.
Yeah, the Mughals maybe, the Mughals consolidated a lot of, South Asia, but, like, they want to conquer everything, like, everything in the region, like, these motherfuckers next day will say, like, somehow China was mythically promised to the Indians and the Hindus, and it used to be Hindu before it was taken over by the Buddhists or the Confucians or whatever, or is the major religion in, China. Um but it's a completely manufactured history, and also the way in which they view the Mughals, right? Like the Mughals are the crux of most of their arguments, and the Mughals, if you actually study the history of the Mughals, they were immensely brutal. Like like I mean, I'm Sikh, right? They did genocides against Sikhs, like for over like territorial disputes and like religious affairs and things like that. But the vast majority of Mughal emperors, before the Akbar and especially Aurangzeb, they were actually very religiously tolerant, like immensely religiously tolerant. They didn't really convert people by the sword. They would allow in Hindu and Sikhs and this coexistence. But within the Hindu Vata sort of ideology, and what they're not able to acknowledge is like, yes, like, to some extent Islam did come to the South Asian subcontinent under the sword, but also it came naturally, peacefully through trade routes, through interaction. The Indian Ocean trade routes spread Islam amazingly. And then
Can
within like overland sea trade, within overland trade within like the Punjab region, especially modern day Pakistan. But within their minds, this all was Hindu, and then suddenly the big bad Mughals came and they made everybody Muslim and they lost us this territory. It's just as fictitious and made up as fucking Zionist historiography, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, and, like, just as important for, like, the coherence of the movement, because you need all this, like, um, kind of nonsense to support it, like revisionist history,
I
you
mean,
know?
that's the thing. India is like South Asian Yugoslavia, right? There's so many fucking ethnicities, languages. It's a barely held together country. The only common factor that they have currently is Hinduism, right? You cannot, in any other sense, you cannot tell me that a Gujarati is the same as a Tamil, right? Like you cannot tell me like language wise,
Not
culture
even the same
wise,
language family.
food wise, the only unifying thing they have at this point really across this vast empire, which has sort of been concocted artificially through like British imperialism, through the British Raj, and of course, the Mughals, though the Mughals never exercised full control of the subcontinent. They were always had one empire or another that they were having to be forced to battle. This mythological unification of India, the only thing they have holding it together is fucking Hinduism. They don't have anything else, really. Like,
And then like the question of like is Hinduism is like really on point. I mean, it's so like complex internally, and like wherever you go, like there's different, there's Vaishnavites and there's like Shivite, like it's like a massive umbrella. It's not like this unified like religion the way a lot of other religions are necessarily.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's completely based on like it changes locally too. So it's not even like they have to like invent Hinduism and they have to invent this unified Hindu identity and this Hindu empire that used to exist. And now you got like these fucking morons on Twitter posting like, "Oh my god, we're gonna restore Bharat to its like fucking glory," and it's like India stretching all the way to like fucking the UK or something. Somehow all of these were like our Indo-Aryan brothers. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's stupidity.
I
But
mean,
on no,
oh god.
honestly, I don't see this war going anywhere other than like a border skirmish, some petty fighting like this river flooding. But I think if it actually broke out into all out war, Modi knows that both sides are fucked. Like that'll be a cost onto the Indian empire that would honestly lead to a lot of political instability. And it would be honestly India's especially because like India is the one who's more driving force that wants to like sort of like do a pseudo invasion, especially the Hindu Vatas of Pakistan and make like Pakistan part of India again. It would be disastrous. It would be their Afghanistan or Vietnam.
It would be so, I mean, a million times worse,
Yeah.
honestly. Like it'd be, I mean, even I there's like some studies on like what the global impact of a nuclear war between Pakistan and India would look like, but I can't remember off the top of my head, but I mean, it would be really fucking bad for the whole world.
Yeah. Yeah, it really would be. All right, you want to move on to kneecap?
Oh yeah, well I guess yeah, should have probably covered it earlier with Israel, but yeah, the band Nika. I don't know a ton about it, but yeah, they had something at Coachella where they posted like a pro-Palestinian message, and then yeah, a bunch of people got mad at them. They had their visas revoked because they're against genocide.
Yeah, yeah, I got a couple notes on it. I can talk about it. So there's this Irish band called Kneecap, and they've been sort of forced by the Irish government to like deny, and like the just like governments like all over the world, like they've gotten global condemnation. They've sort of been forced to deny their support of Hamas and Hezbollah. But the thing is, like, if you go to their posts on Instagram, they're reading like Hezbollah books. They're like saying like fuck Israel. If you go to if you go to the videos of them at Coachella, they were literally draped in Hezbollah flags, like they were like flying Hezbollah flags at the time. And so I think like they've been recently forced to clarify that they do not support terror groups, and say like, we condemn attacks on all civilians. But really, it's more so just I think they're just really trying to avoid jail time, honestly, because like they've been pretty pro Palestine, pretty Al Qassam and Hezbollah. I think what's more amazing out of all of this is that and in 2023, there's this video that's come out of them in 2023 saying shouting, "The only good Tory is a dead Tory. Kill your local MP," which I think is that's pretty. I have no comment legally speaking on that. Um But I think it's kind of wild that global governments are paying so much attention to small time content creators. Like small bands like Kneecap would not be on anybody's radar if we were in the 90s or the 80s. And then Hassan,
I never heard of him before this.
yeah, yeah, and then Hassan, like, he says something, and then the Israeli government will be denouncing him. Like, I don't know, it's getting weird. Elon Musk even got into a fight with Hassan on Twitter, and the dude's just a Twitch streamer, and he's fighting with a dude who's in Trump's cabinet. Like, I don't know. It's getting, I don't know. Our world is getting weird. Like, where governments are picking fights with these very small content creators and bands. I don't know. Well, that's about the news.
Yeah.
You got anything else, Henry?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty much spent. I gotta go somewhere too, but yeah, I mean, it definitely covered a lot. A lot happened this week, yeah.
I
So,
know, I know. I feel like the gates of hell open this week and like this month even. This month has just been crazy. Last month,
sure.
well, yeah, because we're in the, but last month has just been crazy, and I think like we're low key, we're like teetering on the edge of World War III, but also we can't get there. I feel like the world just wants to get into World War III because of like nuclear armaments, we just can't full out break into it. But other than that, like that's the only thing holding us back. We would have a long time ago, I feel like, by now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
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 Well, well,
Well, thank
you have a good one, Henry. You got any last things to say?
Not really. I feel like yeah, we kind of said a lot.
We did.
Um,
We did.
yeah. But
President G or somebody, or even like, I don't know, Israel. Feel free to strike my house. I can't take it anymore. What else? Death to America, free Palestine. Yeah, that's about it.
yeah,
Free
and
Sudan,
then
Congo, all that.
yeah, Yemen, Congo, Kashmir.
Kashmir.
everyone else.
Any other governments? Hawaii, Puerto Rico. Uh,
Yeah. Of course.
uh,
There's a lot. I mean, for this, I mean, eat like West Papua. Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Go Pakistan. We're Pakistani nationalists.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah. And this one for sure.
Yeah, I'm picking the Pakistani side just to piss off the Hikavata. And then restore Bharat to its former glory.
Yes,
We'll be reunited with our German brothers.
Pakistan.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. All right, have a good
All
one.
right. You do, take care.
This episode of the Pokepreet Pod has been brought to you by our generous members on our Patreon. If you'd like to become one of them, go to patreon.com/thepokepreetpod. Thank you. What the fuck? Glory to Stalin. I barely made it. And a special shout out to our Marshal of the Soviet Union member, Mateus T. If you'd also like a shout out, please consider subscribing to our Patreon, where you can also get episodes up to a month early. Thank you.